Welcome to day 2. Today, we're going to talk about project management technical skills. But before we dive in, let's first understand what is project management technical skills, okay? So technical skills for project manager referring to specific knowledge and capabilities related to tools, process, and techniques of project management. And there's quite a list of different technical skills as a project manager that you need to come across. But I want to highlight a few that are critical for you as you're stepping into the first project manager job. So let's dive in. The first one is project planning. So this is where you create detailed project plans, you define scope, you identify resources, you set timeline and milestones. So now the project has a plan, okay? Then task management. So this is where you organize a task, you assign responsibility, who is doing what, and make sure those person get the task completed on time. Number 3 is scheduling. So this is either leverage a tool such as Microsoft Project or Asana, like we did in another video. How do you break it down and assign schedule for each of the tasks? And the task schedule together will create the project schedule. Number 4, documentation. So you prepare project documentation like project plan, project charter, your risk register, or project review summaries. Those are the documentation. Every project might be slightly different, but there are certain documentations that are very consistent across all the projects, such as project charter. All right, before we continue, I want you to pay particular attention to these 4 technical skills because those are the 4 most important technical skills as you step into your first project manager role that you need to be able to do. Number 5, resource allocation management. So every project has resources, no matter that's people who work on the project, who support the project. Those are the resources need to be correctly allocated to the task and be managed. Number 6, budgeting and financial forecasting. So how do you leverage certain tools to estimate project budget, break it down, and monitor and forecast what is spent coming up and where you might end up with a project budget? So think back as a vacation example we mentioned in day 1. How do you budget your vacation, forecast what's remaining, and be able to expect where you at by the end of the vacation? Number 7, quality management. So this is to ensure project deliver the desired outcome and fulfill the project requirement and standard. More importantly, the customer's expectation. So that's the quality. Number 8, risk management. Projects often have risks. So as a project manager, you need to have the ability to identify those risks and be able to understand how are they impacting your project, right? Impacting project timeline, project quality deliverable, or project resources, or project budget, and then be able to implement certain strategies and incorporate approach to mitigate their impact to the project as much as possible. Number 9, performance tracking and reporting. So as a project executing, you need to find a way to monitor and track how the project is doing. So that's something we often hear as a project manager is, how's the project going? And this is where you can have the solid data, leveraging things like Gantt chart or certain dashboard to be able to track how's your project doing. Number 10, contract and procurement management. So sometimes your project might have contractors or you maybe need to procure certain material. For example, if you build a house, you will have contractors, you might need to buy material and paint. And it's similar in a project sense that you need to understand where you need a contractor, when do you need them, and how you manage that. Number 11, process improvement. One thing about project manager is that we need to focus on continuous improvement. And one aspect of technical skill is focusing on the process. So how do you make the process much more efficient and serving you as a project manager and serving the project team so you can minimize the loss of time and effort in those inefficient process. So this is one of the technical skills project manager need to possess. However, all these skills on the second page is something that you can continue to learn and grow as you step into the project manager job. You'll gain a lot more experience through either mentoring, coaching, or the project experience to be able to further shaping those skills. For entry level, especially your first project manager role, definitely focusing on the first 4 technical skills. All right, we talked about project documentation. Let's dive into project charter because when you start your first project manager job, this is very likely the first project documentation that you will need to create as a project manager. So I'm going to walk you through what are some of the information included in project charter and why they need to exist. All right, project charter often is in a word format of a document that summarizes every aspect of a project. So it starts with project's title and a short description. So a brief name of the project, a 1 to 2 sentence, very high level overview of the project, main objective or purpose. Then after that, you want to list the project sponsor and project manager. So project sponsor is the person who provides the financial resources, who's funding the project. Typically are people at the executive level. And project manager is the person who's responsible for managing this project. Then we want to list the project objectives. Again, it's just a couple sentences, very concise but clear statement about what this project will achieve, right? What is a project aiming to achieve by the end? After that, you want to detail out the scope. The scope is critical, meaning you want to detail out what's in scope, but more importantly, you want to detail out what's out of scope. So this draws a boundary of the project. Following by scope, you want to list the project deliverable. And there's no specific quantity requirement of a deliverable. It could easily be one deliverable or it could be multiple deliverables. All it requires is a list of the deliverables. Then you want to list the stakeholders who are involved in the project, who are interested or affected by the project's outcome. And then you want to list project assumptions. So under what assumptions to be true for the project's planning purposes. For example, you assume all the resources you listed are available for the project, or all the tools you need to use for the projects are available. So under that assumption, the rest of the project's scope and deliverable will become true. Project have risks. At this point of the planning, what risks do you foresee, right? What some potential issue might become a threat to the success of the project? And you want to make sure you list them along with some high-level mitigation strategies. But this is not once and done. It's just early thought. As you proceed with the project, you need to continue to circle back and refine these. And then budget. What amount of money do you set aside for this project? Timeline and milestones. How long is the project and what are specific milestones that you need to pay attention to as a project manager? Then you want to know the roles, responsibilities of people who are involved in the project. These are typically focusing on the people who are more intimately involved in the project's day-to-day activities, such as project team members and the project stakeholders. Then you want to call out exactly how you're going to communicate to these people who are involved in the project, whether that's through a regular meeting or through some written communication. Project may have changes. You definitely want to list how are changes being managed and how approval look like. So if there's a change being raised, who needs to review it, how is it needs to be approved and incorporated into the project plan. Last but not least is project closure criteria. So under what condition consider project can be closed? It's delivered its criteria and it is done. What's the definition of done for this project? And lastly, typically for project charter, you would see a sign-off section where the key stakeholders and project sponsors sign, meaning that they not only agree to, they also approve this project charter. So I know this is a lot of sections in a project charter. It's typically the longest and most comprehensive document and lists everything about the project. So after this step, project has a quite comprehensive plan. So now, time for exercise. Day 2's exercise. Write a simple project charter for an upcoming project for you. Whether that's a professional project, a personal project, Alternatively, you could write a project charter for the project example you provided in day 1 and focus on a few sentences under each section and lay out all the core sections that related to the project and describe what's the scope look like. What are the deliverables? Who are the stakeholders? How you're going to communicate with them? What risks you foresee and how you're going to mitigate them? What kind of assumptions you have? What's a project timeline and milestone look like? And what's a budget? Focus on these core sections and be able to articulate that. So if you've done this exercise, put it in the Microsoft Word and post it in one of the posts, or talk through it through a video and leave it into our Facebook group. I look forward to seeing your results for the day 2 exercise. I'll see you in day 3.